Ashes and Diamonds is a Polish film from the 1950s. It is post-World War II and directed by the legendary filmmaker Andrzej Wajda. It stars a man heralded as the Polish James Dean. It is heralded as well by none other than Francis Ford Coppola as the greatest film of all time, as well as the likes of Scorsese and DiCaprio loving it. And we're going to get into it on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast World Tour. Yes, it is the second episode of this arc, and I am joined, of course, by my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, this is an interesting episode. We're in between milestones right now. Last week was the big 50th episode, and next week is the 1 year anniversary episode. How do you feel this week, Shane?
Pretty good, yeah. This is a film I've been wanting to check off the list for a while now, ever since I heard Martin Scorsese wax lyrical about it in his Letterboxd video with Leonardo DiCaprio at that time, his interview. So, yeah, I think there's no good a time. This is as good a time as any to get cracking into it on the Golden Hour Film Podcast World Tour, like you said.
Yeah, so as we said last week on our Seven Samurai episode, we are going to slightly switch up the format, the running order, if you will. Begins all the same, general discourse, spoiler-free review. We're then, instead of doing a scene-by-scene breakdown, we're just going to talk about certain things that stood out to us, certain things that we liked, certain things we didn't like. Kind of get into more, I just call it a spade, more important discussion, more important discourse than talking about this happened, then this happened, then this really good scene happened, then this happened. I think it'll make it more interesting, as Shane so rightly suggested. As you can see as well, I don't know, neither myself or Shane can actually see each other's new setups really, so this is just going to be a fun one to watch back. Unfortunately, so I've built a whole cabinet there that will be full of all my Blu-rays and stuff. That's just all I own at the minute. And then, unfortunately for me, my gigantic head is covering up the Daily Bugle, but it's there too. Shane, I have literally no idea what Shane's new shot is. All I can see is Grogu, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, no, Grogu is a placeholder. We'll see if people like Grogu. Grogu can stay if people like him. This is literally just a placeholder because I'm going to be getting some new posters and some new frames in. Some classic film. Because classic films, obviously sticking with the theme of the podcast. So as and when they come, we can see it on the podcast. But this is just a little placeholder. What my buddy Grogu here is eavesdropping in on the podcast this week.
Hang on, bear with me 1 second.
I love it.
Now, you can't quite see him in the shot, but little Grogu there is also poking his head into my shot too. So
I love it.
Yeah, they will be the placeholders for now. Ashes and Diamonds, it's got such a massive reputation, and as well, after Ashes and Diamonds, we will also talk about the movies we've watched recently, which, if you don't know already, is now also being clipped up into like a little mini series for us. And also, I'm just gonna get a little announcement out of the way. Crazy stuff. I have been accredited to attend the Cannes Film Festival. What is life? Crazy stuff. Didn't think, I thought I missed the boat massively when I submitted my essay. Somehow managed to get accredited. If anyone wants to know how to do it, it's too late for this year, but I will definitely put together a video for the channel as to how to apply if you are between the age of 18 and 28, because the way that I got accredited was through the 3 Days in Cannes scheme, which is a thing only applicable to 18 to 28 year olds. But that being said, there are other ways of getting into Cannes. Yeah, so expect some Cannes themed content on the channel. I'm tempted as well because if you don't know, I mentioned it I think once or twice on the podcast before. I'm also climbing Mount Kilimanjaro this year for charity. So I think I'm gonna kickstart the old dinger. I'm gonna bring back the personal channel and do vlogs on there. But I'm just gonna put vlogs on there. Any other sort of content will just go on this channel. So yeah, keep an eye out for both channels. And yeah, expect more Cannes content because yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. But Shane, what did you think of Ashes and Diamonds in a spoiler-free review?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Delves really kind of deeply into the psychology of the soldiers who obviously the war is over, but it's actually not over because there's still a whole tension as to what's going to happen to Poland, kind of what the future holds. You have characters who can't let go of the past, can't let go of the war, even though it's just having finished. There's characters who are celebrating like they're the whole reason the war was won, even though they didn't lift a finger, they didn't serve in the army, they didn't serve in the yeah, they didn't serve on the front lines, whatever you want to call it. So it's like this whole kind of generational divide. There's a whole kind of class divide because yeah, it's kind of dealing with the working class people who did serve, and then maybe the more upper class people who didn't serve, who are trying to take all the glory. It's so much going on like underneath the surface of this, and then it's just like a really, really interesting thriller as well. As to like this guy has a mission, but then he falls in love. What's he gonna choose? Is he gonna choose love or is he gonna choose duty? So I love those kind of stories in general, and yeah, it's a really, really effective version of that story. So what about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've seen it before. Again, just based off that Martin Scorsese Letterboxd video that came out. I don't know how long ago, but after that, I was like, "Yep, I'm watching Ashes and Diamonds. Thank you, sir." And I absolutely love this movie. The guy who I called, I'm not the first one to call him this, and I certainly won't be the last to call the Polish James Dean, Zbigniew Cybulski. Can't believe I got that first try.
Fair play.
See, I got that, and then I couldn't say first try. Irony. He is fantastic. The reason he gets likened to James Dean, I would say, is partially because he's an attractive man who wears a cool jacket in this and has his hair slicked back, but also because he died very young. He was catching a train home from set one day, went to jump onto the train, missed it, fell under the tracks, got run over by the train. Crazy stuff because, yeah, his performance is exceptional in this movie. I haven't seen any of his other films, but that being said, I was just saying to Shane, this is technically the third part of a post-war trilogy from Andrzej Wajda, and I bought the trilogy off a website, but it hasn't come yet. It should come this week, so obviously I haven't seen them yet, but maybe in the next what we've seen recently, I'll be able to update you guys on what I thought of the other two films in the trilogy, because yeah, this is the third film in Wajda's post-war Poland trilogy. And yeah, I think his performance is exceptional, and as well, just the general discourse in the film, the general theme of like, do I have to do it, and why do I have to do it, and then the subsequent answer regularly being that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it anyway. Yeah, there's a character in it also called Andrzej who goes through a real interesting shift throughout the film. And I think he is one of the director's key images in the film. Is the key motif in the film is how his mentality changes as he essentially gets rushed up the ranks post-war, even though, you know, what even is the use of these ranks if the war is over?
Yeah.
But yeah, I reckon we get on into Ashes and Diamonds. Shane, give us a few thoughts on Ashes and Diamonds. When you think of Ashes and Diamonds, spoilers and all, what comes to mind? First, do you want to maybe set the scene as to what's going on in this movie?
So we have a few guys. So we have Maciek and we have Andrzej, which is the guy you said. They're kind of staking out this place, and essentially their job is that they've been given a job to kill a quite high-ranking member of the Russian troops, I want to say.
He's the Polish Workers' Party.
Polish Workers, yes, correct, sorry. Polish Workers' Party. So they believe that they've done this. They do shoot a few people. They kind of shoot someone. They shoot like an armoured car, shoot the people in the car. But then becomes clear pretty quickly that actually they were the wrong people. They've mistaken identity, whatever you want to call it, because yeah, they're kind of hiding out in a hotel nearby, and who walks in but this guy Suzuka, who was the
Yeah.
intended target. So I think Masiek, the guy playing Masiek, I'm not going to get a first try, so can you give me a dig out there?
Maciek.
Maciek, sorry, Maciek. Yeah, I was doing an American pronunciation. Maciek, yeah, the guy Maciek there, who's actor. I'm not even going to attempt the name of the guy playing him.
Zbigniew.
Zbigniew, that guy. His performance throughout was really wonderful, and not especially, but like no less so in the scene where he finds out that that Suzuka is still alive.
Yeah.
Goes through a whole range of emotions in such a quick span of time.
That shot, because I haven't seen this in a couple of months.
Yeah.
But I was watching this, and I will go through our rating at the end, but I had previously given this a very high rating. And to begin with, I was like, yeah, no, I like this. And then that shot happened, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is class, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he does a split diopter shot where in a phone booth, Andrzej is calling the person who basically hired them to do the job or ordered them to do the job. Listen, we've got the job done. Suzuka is dead. And in that same split diopter shot, outside of the phone booth, you see Maciek chilling out, being all cool, and seeing Suzuka walk into the hotel lobby, and it's all just framed in one shot, and it is so amazing. And then he comes over and he's banging on the door like, Andrzej, we haven't got the job done. And Andrzej's like, oh, hang on 1 second. Oh yeah, no, he's not dead. And then they realize not long after that, yeah, they inadvertently killed 2 innocent cement workers, and as you said, Maciek's hotel room that night, he strategically, because he's a real charmer, again, James Dean-esque, he's a real charmer, both his performance and how he interacts with the characters, and he charms his way into getting the room next to Suzuka that night.
Yep.
But he also inadvertently gets himself a room next to the widow of one of the victims of this accidental shooting.
Such a
powerful
scene.
Amazing scene.
Yeah, 100%. Another thing I wanted to talk about. So we, in this hotel that he's staying in, there's a girl called Christina, who's like a waitress there, a bar girl. He hits it off with her, so it's, in fair that he's a bit of a ladies' man. He's quite smooth with the ladies, but they kind of hit off really well. She's a bit resistant at first. I think she knows that he's a bit of a player, but then they actually do really connect quite quickly, and I just thought the whole romance throughout the film was believable. I really bought into it. It's the whole kind of, the film doesn't work if you don't really buy into that romance and you don't really want to see them kind of give it a go. But he's obviously pulled away from her towards his duty, even though he doesn't want to be. It's like he has a job, he's been given orders. If he doesn't fulfill those orders, he's going to be obviously considered to have abandoned his post, so to speak. Desert his post. So like that's all he can do is just stick to his post, and it's just like giving the spoiler away a little bit towards the end, but they just never really got a shot that day. It's really, really heart-rending stuff.
Yeah, because again, part of what makes the romance believable is that in this point in Maciek's life, he's kind of questioning everything that he believed in.
Yeah.
Because we learn not long into the film that Maciek and Andrzej were in the war together, and they're the only 2 people left from their troop who are still alive. And they get into a discussion in the bar after he meets Christina, where Maciek kind of asks, like, do you think the lads who died, do you think they knew what they wanted from life? Because, like, you don't want to live a life unfulfilled, and he is now realizing that he actually doesn't know if he knows what he even wants in life, because he thought that what he wanted to do was to be a mindless soldier and to get orders, receive orders, and then carry out those orders, and then that's where he would get his sort of satisfaction in life. And he's realizing after this whole fuck up that 2 innocent people died, and then he's questioning, well, what's the point in any of this anyway? And yeah, whilst he's questioning all this, for this girl to then basically come into his life, and they have some fairly deep discussions with each other throughout the film. They kind of pick each other's brains, figure out each other's philosophies, and they realize that, yeah, maybe they should kind of give it a go. But as you said, and we'll get onto that a little bit later, things don't quite work out that way for them. But as well, around this point in time as well, it's interesting that Andre, his response to the incident is he goes to his higher ranking officer and he basically says, like, this is a disaster, what do we do? And the guy's like, well, we need him killed. And he's like, well, why do we need him killed? And the higher ranking officer is basically like, well, that doesn't matter why we need him killed, we just need him killed. And Andre kind of questions this throughout the film, like, am I just carrying out orders for the sake of it? And then throughout the film, Andre realizes that if this incident does happen, he is going to get if this incident is successfully carried out, if they do manage to kill Suzuka, he will get promoted.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's actually been an incident already off screen where he is already in line for promotion literally that week, which leaves him to then have to leave Maciek to do the duty. But then later on in the film, when Maciek is really questioning himself and he comes to Andre, we get great mirroring then of the previous scene where Andre has now swapped roles and Maciek is questioning his life and he's now met Christina and he's like, why do I have to kill him? Why does it matter? Like, the war's over. What does this even achieve? And Andre's like, well, it doesn't matter what it achieves. It's orders are orders. You just have to kill him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
it's a very interesting arc.
He's bought into the whole kind of don't ask questions, just do your duty. Like yeah, I mean, that's obviously been a part of their whole mentality anyway during the war. But it's like, now that the war's over, it shows that they really struggle to kind of snap out of that mentality, and it's like they're almost burrowing further down into this whole this whole mentality, obviously.
Because there's a great line as well in that conversation in the bathroom between Maciek and Andre, where Maciek asks him, like, do you believe in the cause?
Yeah.
And he says, me, that's of no importance.
Yeah.
So, like, even though he may not even believe in this mindless, senseless killing of the essentially they're killing off communists in order to gain independence for Poland. But the mindless, senseless violence is what's getting to Maciek at this point after the two innocent people died. And just for Andre to turn around, totally new character, because he really develops, or you could say he really regresses as a character throughout the film. For that to be the ending of their relationship, because I don't think they have another scene after that with each other, is it's very brutal, and it's very telling of what the mindset was like in Poland after the war, because this literally takes place on the day that Germany surrendered. So
because I love the whole kind of how they built Suzuka up to be this, like, and the film shows he's very, very intelligent tactician, almost like he's very, very capable. But then we see a bit more of his home life. So it turns out that he has a son who's also in the army now. He's also serving, and he hasn't obviously seen him in a while. So he argues with his sister-in-law, who the boy had been staying with. But turns out who was there? It's Andrzej and it's Kosecki. So they were there kind of in the apartment. And once they hear Suzuka was there, they're like, oh shit, this place is burned. Like, we can't come back here. Again, it goes to show how kind of small the area that we're talking about here is. Like, it's neighbours fighting neighbours, literally. Like, this film does actually, The Wind That Shakes the Barley is a film that came to mind more than once in this when I was watching this film. Like, just the whole kind of, you're literally fighting your neighbours, you're fighting your friends, you're fighting the people who just are literally like you in every way, but their politics, like, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, the politics of the film are fascinating, and I'm not going to turn around and pretend to be an expert in post World War II or Polish politics, but it is a really interesting aspect to come at with a World War II film, because obviously there are a few countries who suffered more than Poland during World War II, it's safe to say. So it's really interesting to get a Polish perspective on post World War II, where in Poland, at least, even though the war itself is over, the turmoil certainly is not over in Poland and won't be for a long time after this film.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the guy who plays Drevnovsky, his name is escaping me now, but Drevnovsky's such a fascinating character, again, because this is a guy who, like, he's been feeding kind of information to. I think it's unfair that he's feeding information to both sides. So he's not. He's kind of just playing
Yeah.
them off on each
He
other.
doesn't seem to have any sort of backbone or anything.
He has no.
To him.
Like,
he is a bit of a.
yeah.
Yeah. He is a character who both in storyline and in the reality of the film just gets the piss taken out of him.
Yeah, like, he has no ideology. He's just doing it because he thinks it's going to further his own career. So this is a guy who didn't serve in the war. So he doesn't really care that I'm sure he cares, but not in the sense of he doesn't care what side comes out on top now in this new power struggle. It's like, right, I'm just going to feed info to whoever I think is going to get me another rung up the ladder, another 2 rungs up the ladder. And he's like, he has no no backbone, like you said, no ideological kind of core to him. Like, but his arc then, especially where he ends up, is really, really fascinating.
Yeah. So for context, he's a bit of a side story in this film. He works for the mayor, and he's trying to work his way up into office. And there's this big political meeting, post-World War II political meeting with all the communists that he attends. And he gets leathered beforehand by another character who is a bit of a joke to the high-ranking officials in the film. They don't take this other elderly man seriously. And this elderly man is just a terrible influence because he gets Dragovsky so drunk so fast, and the two of them just come bumbling into this meeting, and they make absolute fools of themselves. And Dragovsky ends up just totally self-sabotaging just torpedoes his whole political career as a result. But as you said, throughout the film, he flip-flops between sides. He kind of does what is best for him, and when it comes to the ending of the film, he ends up it's very he ends up then, whenever the soldiers are going to leave the city, he's on his knees begging them to take him with them, and they're like, oh, now you want to come with the army, now you want to enlist when the war's over. Because he's literally been kicked to the curb, left in the dirt, potentially a way of Andrzej Wajda basically being like, listen, you gotta have some sort of set whether you're communist or anti-communist. If you don't have a set structure, your own beliefs, if you're flip-flopping between who suits you, fuck yeah, you're gonna get left in the dirt, literally. But towards the end as well, just the development between the relationship of Christina and Maciek is fascinating as well. We get some amazing visuals towards the end of this film. So Maciek, on the night that he's supposed to kill Suzuka, basically Christina comes over just before he's about to leave. So there's a great tense scene where he has to try and hide the gun. They then end up in bed together. We don't see what happens. It's implied. Then afterwards, they, discuss philosophies, discuss like, what are we going to do with our lives? We're two young people who've grown up in the war, and we don't really have much of as it stands, we don't have much of a country to kind of grow in. We don't really have much here. So what's the plan? And whenever Maciek realizes that he kind of has to do the deed, he has to kill Suzuka, he ultimately has to say goodbye to Christina. But that's not before they have such a visually striking, amazing impromptu walk. I wouldn't call it a date, but they basically go on a walk. They go through all the rubble and they see all sorts of stuff. They go to a dilapidated old chapel where there's that iconic shot of the upside down Jesus statue hanging from the ceiling as they're discussing their philosophies. And then he goes into a crypt because they're literally just walking and talking basically and not really realizing where they're going. He goes into a crypt and he sees that there's 2 bodies. The guy who's meant to be guarding the crypt, who's asleep, gets woken up because he's trying to fix her. She breaks her heel, so he's trying to bang her heel back into place, and the banging wakes the guy up. And the guy's like, oh, have you no respect for the dead? Like, Jesus Christ, they only died today. And he pulls the sheet over to reveal that it was the 2 cement workers, and the shock and horror on the face of Maciek, just like blood-curdling stuff for him, because he's literally faced with the repercussions of his actions in the most intense way possible. He's literally looking at them on their deathbeds, riddled with bullet holes. It is it's a
Crazy.
very unrelenting end to what was a pretty wholesome-ish date.
And this is the scene where we get the meaning of the title Ashes and Diamonds, because he starts to recite poetry, Maciek. Pretty beautiful stuff where he's talking about like the ashes and the diamonds. Basically what he means is like obviously the war and then the people coming from the kind of the war, and it's like it kind of all crystallizes in that moment what first of all the title means, but also kind of what Maciek is really kind of trying to work towards. This is kind of when he's starting to understand that there's more to life than kind of duty. There's more to life than serving. He's like, I've already served my time in the war. Why should I have to keep doing it? Like so. And after he has that confrontation with Andre, he's obviously debating back and forth what to do, whether to go through with this act, this murder or not of Suzuka. And then he commits to doing it. Then the scene where he actually kind of corners Suzuka is so great. Like it's a scene of him kind of his staircase. He's at the bottom of the staircase.
Shot so
well. Beautifully. Like Suzuka's at the top of the staircase. Maciek is standing underneath in way. Suzuka comes down. Suzuka's looking to reunite with his son Marek, who we've kind of caught glimpses of. So Suzuka's trying to go to Marek without anyone knowing, because he doesn't want anyone to know that his son has been rounded up. And Maciek is a bit further back. He doesn't want obviously Suzuka to know that he's following him, but then at some point then he turns the gun on Suzuka, shoots him, and then a beautiful scene of Suzuka just kind of falling into his arms, and it's like, it's quite tragic. Well, very tragic, obviously, but even in the sense that like he's almost hoping for him to just save him at the last second, and he obviously can't.
He falls into his arms, and then maybe the shot of the film, the fireworks in the background go off at the same time. Obviously, fireworks to celebrate the end of the war go off as he catches Suzuka's dead body. He drops Suzuka, who then falls next to a puddle. And then again, just in another incredible shot where we see him dying, like dead in a ditch next to a puddle, and in the reflection of the puddle, we still see the celebrations going on in the background, the fireworks. And yeah, Maciek is pretty torn up about the whole thing. The hotel concierge, who he kind of charmed earlier to get that nice room, he's an interesting character as well, because I would assume he's kind of used as a relatable character for audiences at the time in Poland, because he's basically talking about what Poland was like during the war, what it was like before the war, how he misses the old Poland and everyone getting on with each other, and he misses Warsaw the way Warsaw used to be. And on the night of the shooting, he leaves the hotel with a big Polish flag over his shoulder, like he's chuffed with himself that the war is finally over. And yeah, the next morning we see basically more of the bourgeoisie, who were clearly not in any way involved on the front lines. They're celebrating and dancing as Maciek has to get his train basically at 4:30 to get out of there before anyone catches on to the fact that he killed Suzuka. So he then realizes obviously he's committed to it, he's killed Suzuka, so he goes and tells Christina he's going. He doesn't get a romantic goodbye or anything. She basically just tells him to get the fuck out. Because she obviously feels like she's just been led up the garden path. And she ends up then very expressionlessly and very disappointedly joining in this dance with all the bourgeoisie, the wealthy Polish aristocrats who are celebrating the following day, who are there making like the hard workers, the pianists and all that, and the bar workers stay late so that they can celebrate even more, which is again just I'd say another fuck you to the upper class from the director. But he heads out after his not so sweet goodbye to Christina. He sees those lads who are going off to in their army truck, basically being like fuck you to Dragnovsky, leaving him in a dirty puddle. But Maciek still has the gun on him, and whenever Dragnovsky comes towards him, he basically just tries to hightail it and leg it. He's like, I want nothing to fucking do with you. I don't want to get stuck in a conversation with you, but also stay away from me, man. I'm getting my train. And as he's running, the gun kind of slips out and he catches it, and he turns a corner, and there's soldiers there who see him running with a gun. He realizes he's going to miss the train. They tell him to stop. He's got a gun. He's got a gun. At this point, I think he may have gone far enough that he can't hear them shouting that he's got a gun, because they just open fire on his back, riddle him with bullets, and then again, just great visual. He kind of stumbles into, I would say, is probably like the back of the hotel he was in, because it's just like a load of bed sheets up on clotheslines, and he falls into one. His blood kind of spills all over it, and he realizes he's dying, and then he goes from here and he stumbles through what looks like a junkyard basically, and he's just stumbling until he falls. And it's not like a dramatic like dead. He literally curls up in a ball and dies dies like a dog basically, like in a junkyard. It's really, really harrowing death for a character. Like, he just curls up in a ball and cries as he succumbs to his wounds, and that's the end of the film.
Yeah, very visceral death, like very kind of not a hero, not what you'd associate with a hero's death in any way, shape, or form. Like, which doesn't say like he was a bad person or evil. I mean, he did do a bad thing, obviously, but again, that's what the film is dealing with. But like the final moment, it's not like he gets a moment of glory and a moment of like just you know what I mean, go out in a hail of bullets kind of thing. Like, he really kind of brings home to roost just how tragic this whole war was, and obviously the ramifications of that for kind of in particular Polish soldiers. So it was really, really memorable ending.
Yeah, so Ashes and Diamonds, I gave it 4.5 stars. I absolutely think this is one of the best post-war movies ever made. It's one of the best movies for me that deals with the aftermath of war. And again, just the perspective, the fact that it's coming from a Polish director, Polish actors talking about World War II. It's like, for me, one of the more, I don't want to say one of the more important, but one of the, for me anyway, one of the more fascinating perspectives that there is coming out of World War II is the perspective of the Polish. So for me, this film is such a fascinating window into what life was like for them at the time. I am going to watch the other two films, A Generation and Canal, and hopefully by the next time, it won't be next week's episode, potentially the weekend or not next week's episode, but potentially the week after this episode, I'll have my thoughts on those two films if those movies come in time. But yeah, I think this is fantastic. I think Zbigniew Cybulski is fantastic, and as far as I'm aware, he's in at least one of the other two films, so I'm interested to see him in that film as well. Just the look, the glasses, something about his smile as well. His teeth aren't perfect or straight or anything, but he's just got a bit of an iconic smile about him. His cool jacket, the picture of him with the gun and the jacket and the sunglasses, it's enough to entice anyone. It's not like it's a die-hard action film or anything, but still, just that image alone is like, oh, that looks like a cool movie. And little do you know that you're getting into post-war Polish politics, and arguably that's more fascinating than if it was an action movie. But I have only seen this film from the director as well. He's a bunch of films on my watch list that I'm going to get through. I'll definitely get through those two soon, and then who knows about the rest of them. I'll keep an eye out for the rest of his films on 4K or Blu-ray, and I'll kind of pick them up when I can. But Andrzej Wajda, for me, a triumphant debut on the podcast. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I gave 3.5 stars. Really, one of the more fascinating films, like you said, about kind of a media period and post-war anyway, really, like when it comes to World War II. It was a film from, sorry to keep name dropping him, a film called Billy Wilder called A Foreign Affair. More lighthearted for sure than this, but that film actually shoots in actual post-war Berlin, so that's the reason I wanted to mention that, is because it really, like this film in post-war Poland, obviously this is made in the 50s, late 50s, but set in the immediate aftermath. But you really
it's worth shouting out as well, The Third Man, because we've covered it on the podcast, which is shot in post-war Vienna. So we actually have covered another post-war film in The Third Man, which is one of our better episodes. Go give it a watch.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, but so yeah, like all these insights into what it was actually like and what the places actually look like. I mean, maybe not in this because they're recreating it, but in the case of A Foreign Affair and in The Third Man, you can actually see for real what these cities, these major urban areas look like in the immediate aftermath. Like usually, you have to watch a documentary to be able to kind of see that thing, whereas they're trying to recreate they're trying to show it to you for real in these films. But yeah, no, this is one of the more thought-provoking, interesting depictions and kind of the way it's trying to tackle what it was like you said, in a country that maybe not too many people have seen films from or whatever documentaries from. Because obviously Poland, despite being one of the most, like you said, one of the most ravaged countries when it came to actually what they actually suffered during World War II, maybe like again the likes of Germany, France, the UK, US, etc., etc. The more Western audiences, which is what we are more kind of focused on those kind of countries. Yeah. So I think it's very, very interesting. There's Zbigniew Cybulski. I hope I got that close enough. You tell me if I have or not, but his performance is so great. Like I said, I think the girl playing Christina, she's great. The guy playing Drevnovsky is great. I think performances across the whole board really. Actually, the guy playing Suzuka is really good as well. I'm not going to attempt any of these names because I don't want to offend any of our Polish audience should they exist. But it's just a really, really fascinating look into post-war Poland, and something that you would not ordinarily see. So do check it out. I think if you're into these kinds of films, I think it can do a lot worse than Ashton Times.
Yeah, and now again need to figure out how I segue this, but now we're going to talk about the films we've watched recently. This is a part of our Golden Hour Film Podcast episode on Ashes and Diamonds, and again we've clipped this little segment up, turned it into its own individual video. But if you want to go back and watch what would be the last episode of the podcast, feel free, because we discussed Andrzej Wajda's Ashes and Diamonds. But I reckon I'll take the lead this week. First and foremost, I watched Mickey 17. I hadn't seen this film. I'm a big fan of Bong Joon-ho, and it reminds me a lot of Okja in that, like, as a film, it's definitely not Bong's most polished work, but the messages behind it and just the general charm that man has and the creativity that he has, I couldn't help but just really like it.
Agree.
I think the only thing better than one Robert Pattinson is two Robert Pattinsons. He's such a great actor. I know you said in your review of it on the podcast that it took you a while to get into the voice and then you were into it.
Yeah.
I just, because have you seen The Boy and the Heron with the English?
Yeah.
From that, I was like, this guy could do weird voices. Yeah. What's he? Because I genuinely, purposefully don't watch trailers anymore. I don't like watching trailers. So I had no idea what to expect coming into this. So as soon as I heard him say like one sentence, I was like, get him, Robert. But really into it. I then watched the Andre the Giant documentary from HBO. It's kind of always in those like top 10 wrestling documentaries. So I thought I'd give it a bash, and it actually is good. Because as a big fan of wrestling, I do find it hard to watch wrestling documentaries and find anything new in them. That's why I really enjoyed You Cannot Kill David Arquette, because it was a totally, like, I was aware of his indie run, but I didn't really follow it or anything. So that was interesting. And with this one, I just liked that they were like, Andre is like an iconic drinker, and he's a marvel of the world, but like he's more than that. Like they talk about his family, they talk about his growing up in France, how basically he was. One thing that I liked that they also reference in the film that like all the wrestlers who were interviewed liked as well is his I don't want to say his chauffeur, but basically his personal assistant who was with him there for his entire career got interviewed, and most of the wrestlers like Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan were like, Jesus, I didn't even know he was still alive. Like no one has contact with him anymore. So he was a really interesting perspective to get on Andre, because obviously he spent like every day with him. I then watched Black Bag off of Shane's recommendation.
So good.
And yeah, thank you for the recommendation. It's a great film. Really liked it. I was it's Stevens. Like as I said in my silly letterboxd review, it is in fact Soderbergh in his bag.
Yeah.
He's making his MI5, MI6 espionage stuff with a fun cast of characters, but it's more so about the unraveling plot and the mystery about it. It's not like as quirky as characters as say Knives Out or Clue or anything, but the characters are definitely memorable, and both dinner sequences are fantastic. I then watched Police Story 2. I don't know why I waited so long to watch 2, because 1 is genuinely, in my opinion, it probably is for me the best action movie ever made. Like in the history of cinema, Police Story is the best action movie ever made. So I don't know why I held off on watching 2 for so long. Because of course I was absolutely obsessed with this movie. This movie is incredible. Jackie Chan is, again, probably for me the best action star in the history of cinema.
He's up there.
His stunt work is like on a different level. The way he always manages, from what I've seen, the way he always manages to deliver on the set piece third act, like it's always that I've seen lived up to the hype. And you're like, oh, well, like my mind was blown at the stunt work in this movie, because I do love stunt work and I love stunts in film. But everything that happened in that final act was incredible. In that, like, just the barrels and the bombs and the fucking toy cars that are exploding and people getting kicked off windows, and that one shot or that one stunt that I just couldn't get over, because it's all done in once, so you know that he actually did it, because Jackie Chan's just the guy. Where, so basically, you know those like waste disposal chutes that like go from the top floor of a factory into a skip? So he's sliding down it, a bomb blows up the middle of it whilst he's in it, and then he has to catch himself, like, still inside the tube, and the fall is like a 4-story fall. So if he falls, he's fucked, and he has to catch himself, and then the tube swings across, and then he, in the one shot, busts through the window and goes back into the factory. It's like mind-blowing how he doesn't die every time. But yeah, and as well, I just liked that the film opened with like some of the insane shit that he did in the first one as well, because I'm like, yeah, just to remind you guys, like this guy will literally just do any stunt that like he can think of. Like he'll drive a car through a village, like just smashing up houses, no problem. He'll be grand. Oh yeah, he'll hang onto the back of a moving bus with an umbrella. He'll be fine. Like, insane. Police Story is like probably the best action movie I've ever seen in my life.
I've got
Police Story 2 is incredible.
I've got the 3 Police Stories. Literally 4 or 5 days ago, I literally downloaded all 3 of them onto my DVR. So that's given me a big kick up the arse to watch them.
Yeah, I have the third one on 4K as well, so that's getting watched ASAP. I then watched Boy, because I do long and ache for New Zealand. New Zealand. What's it called? Coming of age, Taika Waititi to just come back. Yeah. I just need that man to do one more Kiwi coming of age film, and I'll be happy.
Hunt for the Wilder People.
Hunt for the Wilder People is definitely better. It's definitely more polished and refined. But Boy is still fantastic. It's a very rushed ending is the only thing. But fantastic film. Really into it. And then I watched Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is it's I want to call it like purposefully boring. It's a very meticulous film that knows that it's meticulous and knows that it's slow, and it just basically hopes that if you're into it and if you just stay really, really focused, that the ending will pay off for you. And yeah, I did like it. I actually thought it was a very well-made film, and all the performances are great. Like, it's an insanely stacked cast. But the pacing at points, I was kind of like, come on, lads, come on, hurry it up a bit now, come on. But the ending is possibly the best part of the whole film. So it's one of those ones where it's like, if you stick around, it's probably worth it. Yeah. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, so for you to get on with, it was my dad's anniversary recently, RIP. So
Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
yeah, so I wanted to. Well, one of his favorite films was a film called Shane, which I'm sure everyone's heard of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
believe it or
great
not, supposedly I wasn't named after this film, but anyway, it was one of his favorite films. So I was like, fuck it. Now's as good a time as any to watch it. So I watched that, and yeah, I did enjoy it. As far as like being named, well, sharing a name with films, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
I do think that
Just that kid. That kid gets so much stick.
that kid is so annoying. But listen, it is what it is. He's not the only annoying kid performance in cinema, let's be honest. I think Jean Arthur is an absolute legend. So yeah, Jean Arthur is an absolute legend. In my opinion, she's one of the best actresses in like classic Hollywood, just in terms of the quality of her output. And I love the fact that she just like constantly just calling bullshit on Shane's like assertions of like, I have to do this. No, you actually don't, pal. Like you're just doing it because you can, really, because you're good enough. Like anyway, yeah, fair play to her for that. Lawrence of Arabia is like, from a craft point of view, this is like well deserving of his reputation as one of the
Yeah, I reckon we share the same opinion on Lawrence of Arabia.
most visually stunning films I've ever seen. Like, I mean, from a craft point of view, it's unbelievable. Like what David Lee managed to do with this, like hundreds of extras and loads of scenes, and it all works from that point of view. But it's just so long. I'm well up for a long ass historical epic. Like I went to the
We
cinema.
literally did Seven Samurai last week. Like,
Yeah, exactly. No issue whatsoever. Like Seven Samurai, perfect example. I went to the cinema twice to see Killers of the Flower Moon. Didn't feel the runtime at all. Went to the cinema twice to see The Irishman. Didn't feel the runtime at all. Like I'm well up for a long ass film. The Brutalist I enjoyed
as well.
Oppenheimer. The Brutalist I enjoyed, although I did feel the runtime a bit there. I'll be honest. But like this is just so long. It's almost 4 hours, and you feel every bit of those 4 hours, if not longer. So for that reason,
it's a common theme with films that everyone likes that I'm not huge on.
Yeah.
But can you believe I actually watched Lawrence of Arabia hungover? How do you think? Like, could you? It was the longest day of my life.
I wasn't hungover, and it was still just.
Yeah.
It felt
the
like
longest day of my life.
It felt like I turned it on in the morning and turned it off in the nighttime when it didn't, obviously. But it felt so long. I watched The Naked Gun too. I did like it, I should say, about Lawrence of Arabia. I did like it, but
Yeah.
it's so well made, but like it was just too long. It was just too long. The Naked Gun 2.5. Saw the first one there a while back. This is a good sequel. Again, not as good as the first one, but hey ho, it's Hollywood. Yeah, usually the sequels are inferior. The Accountant is a film that, again, sequel coming out next month. So I wanted to watch that. Actually, probably this month by the time you watch this video. But yeah, looking forward to the sequel anyway. Even though I hadn't actually seen this, because I just know that it's. I know that this film, like, it's been on the watch list for a while because I just knew I kind of like it. So yeah, it's a fun actioner. Ben Affleck plays a really interesting character, a neurodivergent accountant who's also just a kick-ass like killing machine. So really interesting stuff. Only the kind of thing Hollywood could come up with, but yeah, fair enough. And then, there's another film that we're going to be covering on the podcast soon, so I want to mention that. Although I did love it, spoiler alert, so watch out for that. But I did not a film, but I did watch the Robert De Niro limited series, 0 Day on Netflix, which is a big old pile of shite, and I would recommend no one watches that. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, I saw his new films also getting bombed.
Yeah.
Reviews wise, so
I kept waiting for something interesting, but this cast is so stacked. De Niro, Jesse Plemons, who else? Joan Allen, Connie Britton,
Leo G. Carroll.
Yeah, maybe everyone but Leo G. Carroll basically is in this limited series. It feels like, but it's just I kept waiting for something interesting to happen, but every once in a while something will, but then it just go right back to being uninspired and boring. So yeah, I personally didn't like it, but it is what it is. Obviously, apologies for the TV little recommendation there. Well, not a recommendation, but yeah.
Fuck TV.
I'm not. I love my TV, but
I'm joking.
Don't watch 0 Day. Don't watch 0 Day.
And yeah, that is all the films that we have watched recently, and now incredibly smooth transition back to the podcast. And yeah, so next week, I'll be honest, because we recorded last week before I put the graphic together, but now I know, and now Shane will know, that you guys already know what we're doing next week, which is Cleo from 5 to 7. One of my favourite French New Wave films, one of my favourite characters in film in the 60s, Agnes Varda. Yeah, it's the 1 year anniversary of the podcast. It only took us a year to do a film directed by a woman.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, not great.
Yeah, we're righting a heinous wrong on the podcast. I don't know how we have gone a full year without covering a single female-directed film. Well, I do. It's like old cinema.
Yeah,
women weren't given the
didn't-
opportunities they
that's
should have
it,
been,
yeah.
you know. But that being said,
We should have
no,
made more of an effort, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hence, Clear from 5 to 7, which is one of my favourite films of the 60s. Just going to put it out there. But yeah, we're going to get into that next week. In the meantime, thank you very much. I have been Harry Bailey.
And I've been Shane Maloney.
And that was episode 51 of the Golden Hour Film Podcast, Ashes and Diamonds. We'll see you all next week. Goodbye.